We gotta start with this player. We gotta start talking about Debinha because that's where we last left everybody. Lisa, we were talking about Debinha and things that we were hearing across the rumor mill and what that could mean for a player of her caliber, what that could mean for NWSL. And after we had that episode, the breakup was made official.
I
North
know.
Carolina Courage coming out with an official statement with Debinha. She's quoted within this statement as well, a little bit of a farewell, saying it's official that she will not be returning to North Carolina Courage. 6 seasons with the Courage, 7 trophies, has been with the club since 2017, and now everyone awaits both 2023 and the decision for where we're going
Yeah.
to see Debinha play next.
Yeah, when this news dropped that she would not be returning to the club, it was definitely very large. Right? This is giant news, but I really don't think it was that surprising because at this point, the 31-year-old midfielder was a free agent in the league, and we knew that for the last several months. We knew that Debinha was a free agent, and so often, some of these big free agents that were out there, if their teams were going to re-sign them, that was made very clear. You think of Christine Sinclair with the Portland Thorns Canadian International on the Thorns return home after winning the NWSL championship. Sinclair announced that she will be staying in Portland as her free agency was available at that point. And for someone like Debinha, who was the biggest person on my free agency watch list, I know we had talked about that a lot here on Attacking Third. And the fact that North Carolina hadn't announced she'll be staying and she hadn't said that was a little
No.
bit peculiar. So when this announcement came that she would not at all be staying in North Carolina, it was pretty bittersweet, I think, for a lot of Courage fans because they wanted her to stay. How could you not want her to stay? But then as the rumors started to swirl about Debinha going to Europe and playing with Arsenal, maybe, you have to imagine that so many clubs were reaching out to her, wanting to pick her up and wanting to sign her. So as a player that of her caliber and at this point in her career, she's been an NWSL championship MVP in 2019. She's been on NWSL best 11 this past season. She went on a tear scoring goals. She's a veteran. She's a leader. She's just such a tremendous player to have. This was not at all surprising, but we're still waiting, right, for that other shoe to drop, so to
Yeah.
say, as to where she's going to go, what kind of contract she's going to get. Is she staying in the NWSL? Is she going abroad? These are giant questions that I am just waiting to be answered, but I wasn't surprised she was not staying with North Carolina.
Yeah, I mean that was a little bit of what we chatted about. Like what's going to come next for that player that she had already been, when you're looking at sort of the careers of some of these players, some of these like really superstar kind of caliber type of players, and how some of them have been with their clubs for X amount of years,
Mm,
right? And when you're looking at sort of the very long resume of being just an NWSL with the courage, I said that in the previous episode that I don't think there's anything
yeah.
left for this player to prove, not only with that club specifically. There's I don't know if there's any more challenges for a player like Debinha with North Carolina. And would that possibly mean that she would be open to a different move to another club in NWSL for a different challenge,
Yeah.
or in a different league altogether, right? So that was my biggest thing. So sort of, I'm with you in terms of having that news kind of drop officially. It didn't really shock us too much. If anything, it's just like, okay, well, this just means that we definitely have to, remain on the Debinha watch for, the next, I don't know, we're doing this post Christmas. We're
Yeah.
doing this live on December the 27th. Look, if it is going to be an international move, there's some international windows that aren't going to be open until January 2023. So there might not be the news that drops, ahead of that until it's actually open. So it's something that we're going to continue to keep an eye on for sure. But had to kick off the episode with chatter about that first. But before we get into our year in review, there's another little bit of news that we wanted to chat about that broke over, well, prior to the holiday weekend. News of Brazilian legend, not just international, But Marta is re-signed with Orlando Pride, announcing another contract with the Pride for 2 more years. Has been with the Pride since 2017. In the process of coming back from an ACL injury, but this is still, again, another bit of massive news that we got before the holidays. It was like Christmas. Christmas came early
It
for everybody.
was. It
You
was
know
like a
who's staying
little
in NWSL? Marta.
It was like a little Christmas gift, that not only in the NWSL, but with Orlando Pride, a club that, she has been the leader of and been a veteran of, and after tearing her ACL, right, like the second, third game of Challenge Cup, I don't even remember. It was so early on in Challenge Cup, the second game, um, and being out for the rest of Challenge Cup, the rest of the regular season, the only like positive thing was like, okay, she'll be back for the World Cup. She'll be back for next season,
Yeah.
because of how early it was. But so fans didn't even get to watch her last year. I mean, like 120 minutes is not enough time to watch the legend play, especially in Orlando. So she'll be back, especially a 2-year deal for this 36-year-old international. She is the legend. And this is her year, right? For Brazil to go to the World Cup, for her to make big waves in Orlando in the NWSL, re-signing with the club, staying at home. I mean, this is huge. This was a big announcement. It was like almost as big as Debinha not staying in North Carolina, right? Because it was like back-to-back news breaking of these huge players, both Brazilian internationals, about what they were going to do in the NWSL. And I know Orlando Pride fans were just ecstatic to know that Marta would be staying. I mean, that's a huge positive for the club.
I think it was a little bit like maybe like a flip, like in terms of perspective on like two players who, yes, play as teammates for the same national team with Brazil, but who are like sort of in different phases of their
Right.
career, right? So I think there's that common thread of neither player has a ton to prove, but in different, like maybe different areas, right? These are two players who are obviously still chasing things like a World Cup title or international titles like that, right? Winning Copa Americas, already they sort of won certain things even as international teammates, but there's things in NWSL that Marta is probably still trying to chase that maybe Debinha doesn't need to chase anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and just like I said, in different phases. So you've got a Debinha who is 30, looking to maybe try to get some different recognition, and unfortunately, it's pretty glaringly obvious that for a lot of players who are maybe chasing global um, accolades are finding that they need to play in Europe in order
Mhm.
to achieve those things. I know folks, it's the end of the year, so you're starting to see a lot of end of the year lists come out, and folks are feeling, are seeing the CONCACAF disrespect
Yeah.
or the CONMEBOL disrespect on players that aren't very high on lists who play in these specific regions. Um, and you do have to wonder a little bit if a player like Davinia does go overseas, if she starts to get some of that respect or recognition that she should already have because of the amount of success that she has had with NWSL and Brazil, right? Coming off of a Copa America Femenina title, at this point, just in this past year
Mhm.
alone. So I am curious to sort of see what the return of Marta looks like in 2023 for Orlando Pride, because I thought she also served a very unique purpose for the Pride and for NWSL. I mean, we're talking about, when you're talking about Marta, you're talking about probably the greatest women's soccer player to have ever
Oh, yeah.
graced the pitch. And not only that, you're talking about a player who has had a hand, a role, a boot, a cleat in, sort of helping raise and elevate the profiles of certain leagues across the world as well. And I think with Orlando able to get Marta to NWSL,
Yep.
it was another opportunity for this player to sort of elevate just not only that club's profile but the league's profile as well. And that 2017 that she had with Orlando was, you saw immediately what the impact of that player can do, even though she's been in a different phase of her career for the last few seasons already. But that was the first and last time we ever saw the Pride in the NWSL postseason.
Right.
And she kind of had one of those breakout MVP caliber seasons. So I'm eager to see what Seb Hines, this current group of Orlando Pride, what they look like with Marta healthy and available.
Yeah, I agree completely. I mean, I think the way you said it, that there are probably still some things on Marta's bucket list that she wants to check off as to
Yeah.
kind of what she can do with Orlando, taking them back to the playoffs, probably lifting an NWSL championship, and with a 2-year signing, I think that gives a little bit of light to Orlando fans to know that it's not just 2023, but it is 2024, and this is a 2-year stint where this team can really turn themselves around and have a bit of consistency on the pitch, string together a number of wins throughout the entirety of a season, keep Seb Hines as their head coach the entirety of the season. There are a lot of holes maybe in what Orlando was trying to do, but keeping Marta, keeping her in purple in a Pride kit, remaining there. She leads the club in goals, that she has 27. This is a player that, if the club wants to turn things around, wants to win a championship, wants to get back to the playoffs, this is a player in Marta that will do that for them.
100%. We're looking forward to it. Just a little bit of news, just tiny bits of news that dropped before the holiday. Wanted to chat about that with you, Lisa, and with everyone joining us as always. But that's not all we're going to do today on this episode. We're going to do an NWSL year in review for everybody. So stick around. We'll be back right after a quick break.